following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
This week, the guys recap the 2021 NFL Draft, and as always, they answer a listener question. All that and more. On to the show. Welcome to the Defy Life Podcast, powered by the Defy Life Podcast Network. This episode is sponsored by Bud Bottles, home of the Bud Bottle and the Bud Freshener. Please visit budbottles.com for your odor eliminating needs. This is episode 196. Y'all come on in, wipe your feet, close the door behind you. I'm your host, J.R. Glimpf, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Alvin Glimpf and Lincoln Glimpf. It's a Glimpf thing tonight, all Glimpf all the time. What up, Al?
It's all good, all glimpse, all the time, and ain't bad at all. So it's good to be here. I love doing these shows. So glad to be here.
No doubt. Lincoln, you are no longer a guest. You don't get your own special introduction. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Had a good day so far. Top it off with the show.
No doubt. Let's get to it. So first things first, happy birthday, Al.
My man, thank you, brother. Thank you. Oh, no. I mean, if you want it to be your birthday, Lincoln, it could be your birthday too. Nah, it's all good, man. Thank you. This is, always a special time. Love celebrating birthdays. It is also a special time because we are in the midst of celebrating my daughter graduating from college. So just looking forward to this week. And, just generally speaking, man, I just am very thankful. I have a life that is full of great family, great friends. Just the stuff I do outside of family and friends, like this podcast, are just amazing. And I was talking to somebody today. They asked me, one of them reflective questions, and like, well, anything you thought about today? And like, honestly, my day's been so busy that I haven't really had a lot of chance. But what I told him then, though, is that what I can't help but think is that if someone had asked me when I, 30 years ago, when I relocated from New York to Atlanta, and someone said, hey, 30 years ago, this is what your life is going to include, I would say, check, give me that. I'll sign up for that right there. That's so awesome. I am thankful. And, like I was telling him, for a dude who came from New York to Atlanta, not knowing anyone in the city of Atlanta, it has been an amazing journey, and just extremely thankful for what my life has been. So, I just really have become a man in Atlanta. So while New York City is my home and it is the place I grew up, I transitioned to manhood in Atlanta. And it is, I'm just thankful. So glad to be here, and don't take any birthdays for granted.
Absolutely. As a wise man once said, say word.
Say word.
No doubt.
Yes. No doubt.
All right. Well, Thomas Stevens is out today, so Lincoln is joining us. Before we get too deep into the show, as always, let's do a little bit of house cleaning. We want to shout out our patrons, man, as always. Every week we want to shout y'all out because y'all deserve it. People always ask, what's the best way to support the network? Go to patreon.com/GoDefyLife and become a patron. You can help support our growth and allow us to host events and continue to work in our communities. For less than your favorite fast food combo, you can support Defy Life. Also, check out our podcast hub at defylightpods.com, our written content at godefylife.com, and our branded apparel at defylightgear.com, as well as in brick and mortar locations at Cola Kicks in Columbia, South Carolina. So y'all know where to find us. Check us out. Al, did I cover everything?
Bruh, like me and my birthday, like just euphoria. That's how I'm feeling right now after listening to you go through that right there. Like just feeling awesome. Feeling awesome.
All right. Well, let's get it then. So we missed y'all last week. We had some things come up, and we didn't get to dive deep into the draft. So we are just going to have Al discuss his teams, have Lincoln discuss his Steelers, and finish it off with a pretty relative listener question for this week. So, Al, which one of your teams you want to jump on first?
Well, I'll start kind of in the draft order how it went on the NFL day, and start with the Jets since they had the number 2 pick.
Okay.
So, leading into the draft, you know, as we even did the mock draft, definitely I expressed my desire that we would have got Justin Fields as the quarterback. But honestly, even when I took the pick, I knew that wasn't the case because the Jets were pretty clear in their intention to take Zach Wilson. So that being said, I am pleased with him as our selection and just pleased with what they did throughout the whole draft. I mean, starting out with Zach, I think, you know, we are putting all our money in him. And of course, at the end of the day, dude is 21. But, you know, time will tell if he's the right guy. You know, it's real easy to say one way or the other at this time. But what we have shown, what the NFL has shown with the draft is that, you know, it's like 50%, right? In terms of them first round draft picks that turn out to be more than a bust. So we will see. I think what they did do though is, which they didn't necessarily do with Sam Darnold, is that they tried their best to surround him early on with what could be a successful environment. So from getting a quarterback-friendly coordinator in Mike LaFleur to then even dedicating some early draft capital in Vera Tucker, the offensive lineman from USC, which we all expressed that he was a really good interior lineman. So I thought that was a really good pick. But then the young speedster, Elijah Moore, in the second pick, I also thought was a coup because I think with his speed, being able to work out the slot, I think he's going to be somebody that at the end of the day is going to pay dividends. And then even in the fourth round, they picked up Michael Carter, who I think is going to, with his speed, shiftiness, and in this offense, I really think that he's going to be part of a running back committee with the dude P. Ryan out of Florida last year. Mm-hmm. I think he was pretty successful as well. So looking forward to that, to see what we can build with this offense. Because I think, like I said, they are really taking some amazing steps for the first 4 picks, which they didn't do with Sam. So I'm thinking that this could be the start, hopefully, of the rebuild. And if Zach is anywhere as good to where, you know, people are projecting him to be, he'll be the best quarterback in my lifetime. Well, maybe not. Chad Pennington was pretty good too. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, that's really has been the major challenge for all our Jet fans, is that we haven't been able to get a young quarterback to make a difference in our franchise.
No doubt. First off, I think Vinny Testaverde might have a gripe with you, but
yeah. Hey, see me in the street, sir. I ain't scared. Just keeping it real, bro.
But second of all, couple interesting tidbits about the Jets draft. They got 2 Michael Carters actually. And how funny is it that they got a running back named Michael Carter from North Carolina and a cornerback named Michael Carter from Duke. So rivaling Michael Carters, who will probably be roommates come rookie mini camp. So that'll be interesting. And also a name that my sleeper at safety was drafted in the 6th round by the Jets, Hamza Nasiruddin. Don't get him confused with the dude who fought Muhammad Ali. That was his own. But yeah, pretty interesting prospect there. So overall, really good draft for the Jets. I think they did more in like you said in the first draft than they ever did for Sam Darnold for Zach Wilson. So pretty good draft for the Jets. It's going to be interesting to see how all those pieces come together.
Yeah, and it's very hard for most New York fans to show patience, especially since we've been asked to show patience for the last 30 years. And so I do, though, encourage Jet fans to, be patient. This is a young quarterback and just a young team. And what we're really hoping for as we look at this season is, we're not looking for necessarily playoffs or to go far in the playoffs. Although, if you was to get to the playoffs, that'd be awesome. But I think really what we're looking for is to see signs of progress, to see competition, to see that they are really, if they're not winning, at least taking teams into the fourth quarter and being competitive. Zach can do the job. And if we can have that come out of this year, that would be successful.
Absolutely, yeah. And another interesting draft tidbit on the Jets before we move on to Lincoln Steelers. We watched, the episodes. Was it caught up in the draft on NFL Network? Me and Lincoln were watching it, and it was on the 2004 draft with Roethlisberger and Manning and Rivers. And there was a small little section on there about a certain tight end the Jets drafted named Kyle Brady from Penn State.
Kyle Brady out of Penn State.
Yeah. And Lincoln found that hilarious. You want to tell him why, Lincoln?
Okay. So, obviously, as a Steelers fan, I already despise the name Brady. But it's just like Kyle Brady. Anyone who watched it, don't get offended, please. But that is the most whitest boy name ever. Kyle Brady? Yeah. Bro. Nah, that's the whitest name ever. You can't tell me any different. I don't care about any other. That is the whitest name ever.
Oh, man.
Not gonna argue with you. It doesn't get much whiter than that name right there.
Yep.
But, looking back as a Jet fan, he was a average, I'm not sure where we picked him at, average tight end. But I have a feeling there were some people we passed on that we would have wished we picked.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty. If we'll go over that on another show, because that's going to be a show within itself. Yeah. But, yeah, so Lincoln, on your Steelers, man. Came into this draft, everyone, I think, every draft there's always one pick that everybody knows is going to happen, if the intersections meet, right? So if everybody knew across the draft world that if Najee Harris was available at 24, he was going to the Steelers. So what were your thoughts on the draft as a whole and as getting Najee Harris in the first round, Lincoln?
It honestly was a no-brainer for the Steelers and Steelers fans across the world. Like, if Najee was there, we were gonna take him. And honestly, I'm super happy about the pick. We had the worst rushing, literally the worst 32nd rushing team last year. We were horrible. Our blockers weren't good. And Najee is one of those backs that he can be consistent without that good of an O-line. So I think that was just a great pick, especially along with adding, what's that dude? Kendrick Green? Yeah, that's his name, Kendrick Green. I like him. I don't know. I like that pick better than Pat Freiermuth because I like Kendrick's personality, and he's a good player. I feel like he's just really good. Like him and Najee would have. I feel like they would be like friends, like good friends. Like, and
Well, they better be. That's your center.
All right. Like he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. He talks like Patrick. He looks like Patrick Mahomes. Nah, but for real, he looks like his long lost brother.
Yeah, fat Pat, a center that looks like Patrick Mahomes.
Interesting.
All right. Oh man, so did you not like the Pat Freiermuth pick?
Oh no, I like that. I really like him. I just like the Kendrick Green pick more because if you saw our offensive line last year, Jesus Christ, we got veterans being bull rushed by every single person for no reason.
Yeah.
Like there is no way. Like, and if you are a Steelers fan out there, and if you disagree with taking Najee Harris, you did not fully see what happened last year. Like, I get it. Running backs only last 6 to 8 to 10 years. But, like, still, it's a really good pick compared to what happened. Would you rather have James Conner, like, even though he left, shoot, Kellen Balaj, Benny over Najee? Like, no. That is not going to happen.
Right.
That would not work.
Yeah, absolutely. So you we another interesting tidbit about the Steelers draft. This is the first time in 8 years that they've taken an offensive player in the first round. So they didn't have a first round pick last year, but if you count Minka Fitzpatrick as their first round pick, he's another defensive player. So the last 8 years, they've taken a defensive player with the first round pick. That started with Lawrence Timmons in Mike Tomlin's first year, all the way up to last year again with Minka Fitzpatrick. So, for this year to have the first 4 picks being dedicated to the offense, it's a bit of a strange feeling in Pittsburgh. So, but I think the steal of the draft for the Steelers, Lincoln, was Quincy Rochet in round 6, who has the potential to be a steal as an outside linebacker edge rusher.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I remember our 55th pick. Was it the 55th? I think so. But I remember, I think the 52nd pick, the Browns, they made a trade with somebody. I forgot who. I think it was the football team. But I remember they made a trade, and I really wanted JOK. I really wanted Jeremiah Owusu. And I was thinking to myself, I saw the Browns trade, and I was like, no. I was like, please don't. Because I knew they needed a linebacker. And then when they got JOK, bro, you should have saw my face. My face was like, I couldn't talk because I really wanted Jeremiah. I wanted him so bad. But then, like, when we got Quincy Rochet, I was like, okay, that makes up for it. Like, I wasn't fully happy, but then, like, 2 to 3 days later, I started watching film and Quincy Roche's highlights. I was like, all right, I'm not that mad no more. So I think he's a sleeper, honestly. Really, no one was looking at him that much, but I like him, especially like him mixed with Jalen Phillips. Of course, like Jalen Phillips is like a bigger star than him, so Jalen Phillips is gonna be looked at more. So I think it was a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should have. I always warn him, Al, about getting fixated on one player. Leading into the draft, because you just set yourself up for disappointment. It never works. So overall, really not a sexy draft for the Steelers. If this was 20 years ago, it would have been the sexiest draft out of everybody. You get a first-round running back out of a big school like Bama, but running backs ain't sexy no more. So, Najee, you need to bring us some sexiness back to Pittsburgh, man. However you do that. On to the Cowboys, man. I think y'all gonna line up like 9 linebackers on defense this year?
That's all. Hey, we just need linebackers, man. We
Sorry.
have nine linebackers. DeMarcus
Talk
Lawrence.
about linebackers.
The Marcus Lawrence will be up front, and then we will have Boss Man Fat in the secondary, and that'll be our 11. And let's go. Let's get
No
them.
doubt. 9 linebackers. Word.
Y'all got bad linebackers. What y'all gonna do with them? Like,
Look.
explain to me. Like, what do you think the Cowboys defense is gonna look like?
Well, so I know the fact that we picked 2 linebackers in our top. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 6 picks, right? And 2 really good linebackers that you would hope to play. And when you look at our roster, some might say, well, wow, why did you pick linebackers? That's not even a need. But I think oftentimes people automatically look at your draft and think this year as opposed to thinking next year or the year after that in terms of building the quality depth.
Right.
So for me, while we picked these 2 linebackers, one, Sean Lee retired last year, so that definitely opens up a need. Van Der Esch is on his last year of a contract, and we're not sure if we're going to bring him back or not. He has been fairly injury prone.
And they're not picking up his 5th-year option.
Not picking up his 5th-year option, which they did like immediately after the draft. It's like they submitted Brill Cox pick, and then they text Leighton and said, "Oh, by the way, we're not picking you up, sir."
Right. We're going to play with 8 linebackers.
All right.
But then also with Jalen, while I'm a big Jalen Smith fan, I have to acknowledge that his play did slip. And who knows what the reason was in terms of preparation, switching schemes, whatever. But the fact is his production was not where you wanted it to be. So the fact that we imported some competition at linebacker to me is it's a case of one, best player available, like really getting who you have on your draft board, high on the draft board, and getting that person, but also thinking down the line, these guys might be getting some serious playing time this year and definitely in the future. So that's the linebacking core. But overall, man, I think when I look at this draft, I am very pleased with what we did in our draft. And, I went into the draft hoping that we got one of the top cornerbacks, whether it was Horn or Surtain. I was kind of hoping for Surtain, but the reality is those 2 cornerbacks went the 2 picks before we were slated to pick. So Horn went 8, Surtain went 9, and then when we were supposed to pick 10. So when it happened, when both of those picks, I looked at my wife and was like, yo, I don't know what to do now because they just picked who I wanted to pick, kind of to the point of don't get attached to people, right? So kudos to the Cowboys for not only ending up with what many people think is the best defensive player in the draft, but also to maneuver and drop down and get a 3rd round pick out of the Eagles as they flipped that 10th pick for the opportunity to pick the Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama, Devontae Smith. So, I look at that pick and I'm extremely happy. I think Mika's going to play immediately and get some run. I got the text from you about Bossman Fat when he was picked as the cornerback. And I am, while he's not, one of the cornerbacks that we were identifying as getting at the top in the 1st round, kind of like you, Lincoln, as I've done my share of video study and reading up on him, this dude has the potential to be amazing. And
he's a CB1. He is a CB1.
Which we did not have.
Right.
I like Trayvon Diggs. I think he's going to be a solid cornerback in this league, but he's not a CB1.
Right.
So hopefully I'm thinking these 2 can make a good pair because we got some wide receivers to match up against in our division. So I'm hoping, right. So Washington has good wide receivers. You just got Smith coming in. With Philly, they got the 1st round pick. What's the guy that they picked last year? Wide receiver. I can't think of his name right now. But the last 2, him.
Yeah.
The last 2 drafts, the Eagles have invested in wide receivers. So I'm hoping that he can come in and play immediately. From my assessment, I think we got 3 good cornerbacks already. I like Brown. I like what's the guy's name? Lewis. Think of his name right now, but out of Michigan, and Trayvon Diggs, right? So I think the 3 of them, and then you add this guy that could give us potentially 4 solid cornerbacks, which is what you want. A lot of people have been poo-pooing on our 3rd round selections. The UCLA defensive lineman, Osa, you got Chauncey Golston out of Iowa, and then Nashawn Wright out of Oregon State. And, from what I've read, and, not familiar with any of those players, a lot of their criticism is about not necessarily them as players, but where they were selected in the draft. And I definitely respect the concept of reaching, but I also understand that at the end of the day, if players are players and, they come and contribute, 2-3 years down the line, nobody remembers who reached or not. It's just a matter of you picked you a good player and he's now on your team. I definitely like Brill Cox. Be able to get him and add him to the mix. I think his speed, athleticism is somebody, a playmaking ability that I think he fits into the type of aggressive scheme that we have coming on with Quinn. And then lastly, I think the name that I would say to kind of 2 names that I would say kind of pay attention to in terms of late round drafts. One is the defensive lineman out of Kentucky, Burhana, Quentin Burhana. I think he is somebody that I think will play more than people expect to him to be that late in the draft and selected. I think it's a position of need, and we have room for him as a playmaker. And then the last one is the cornerback, who I think they have already switched to safety out of South Carolina. Israel, I don't know how to pronounce his last name,
Mukamu, yeah.
Right. I think from what I've seen in the highlights, I think he is going to be somebody that at the very least contributes from the special team perspective, but maybe the year after can develop into a quality safety. So, we invested 8 picks on our defense.
Right. And between you and these should, and maybe in the first half y'all play 9 linebackers, and then when in the second half when you trying to post people up and milk the game away and put people in the post, you could put them 2 6'4" DBs back there, because Mukamu and Nashawn Wright are both 6'4". So
yes.
You just put them in the post and let them go to work.
Let them go to work, right? And I was listening to Quinn talk about why he emphasizes length so much on defense, and really compared it to football. And just that, when you talk about defense, things that you can't teach are length, but they definitely make a difference in defending, whether it's basketball or football. And so I can appreciate his tendency to look for longer players, particularly at defensive back. A tip here and a tip there can make a difference in a game. So I see where they're going. And honestly, the Cowboys have really been making that switch to longer defensive backs since we had the out of sight, out of mind. I can't think of the brother's name, the defensive coordinator that came from Seattle, the brother that came from Seattle years ago. I can't think of his name, but he brought then an emphasis on longer cornerbacks, and we were able to, start making that switch to get longer cornerbacks. So I'm hoping that this, not only the emphasis on defensive players, because honestly, man, as I'm looking at the draft, I'm like, another defensive player. Wow, another defensive player. Oh my God. But it wasn't. A lot of times it just kind of happened in terms of who was available. But it was definitely also coming from, we just had an atrocious defense last year. So kudos to the Cowboys for at least trying to fix it. Because if we hadn't put that emphasis on the on the defensive side of the ball, people would be criticizing us like, dang, as sorry as your defense was last year, y'all not going to get no defensive players. So they kind of overdid it and was like, "Oh, okay, y'all want us to get defense? We gonna go defense."
Just a
And
game of
8
numbers.
out of 11 players.
Yeah, but what I do appreciate, about this Cowboys draft is, so I say all the time that modern football is no longer about positions. It's about situational football, right? And so to see guys that can play specific roles and not necessarily have a position. Guys like the Osa Odighizuwa pick, I love that pick because he's a guy who you're not going to play him on obvious rundowns. But when you need somebody who can fulfill a role and make penetration on the inside, move him up and down the line, you put him in and keep him fresh and let him wreak havoc up and down the defensive line. Guys like Michael Parsons, Brill Cox. Cox is a former safety. Guy who, two linebackers who are good in coverage, and one, Parsons can put his hand on the ground and rush the passer sometimes if he needs to. So guys who can play situational football and fill roles, not necessarily fill a position. So I appreciated that about this pick because it about this entire Cowboys draft. Because it leads into modern day football.
And just I agree with you wholeheartedly. My last comment was, I also appreciated that the Cowboys resisted temptation of trading up and giving up draft picks in this draft to move up. And only because I think what they recognize is the need to get inexpensive talent and players on a team that has so many high-priced players on their team. So coming into a season where you just signed your franchise quarterback, the idea that we might be able to get, out of 11 players, hopefully we get 6 or 7 of them that stick, and to be able to have those players on 3-4 year deals, I think that's going to help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sounds like y'all are overall happy with all your drafts of your team, so I'm happy for y'all. Nothing like coming out of a draft hating your draft, so I'm glad y'all like it.
And one last thing, I think particularly in that first round, I found myself thinking a lot of times like that's a good fit. That's a good fit. That's a good fit. Mm-hmm. Like that there are really players who landed in the right spots, and then even some who were playing with some of their former teammates, where I also thought was kind of cool as well. So I think overall this is a good draft experience. It is a lot of teams who are feeling good right now, unless you are Green Bay Packers and you're wondering what's going on with your quarterback.
Oh, God. Yeah, now they want to throw money at him, of course. But yeah, I agree with you, man. A lot of good fits in that first round, and even picks that were kind of easy targets for people to criticize, like the Alex Leatherwood pick to Las Vegas. He's a solid. Again, like you said, we appreciate people saying a reach is a reach, but whatever. If it's your guy, go get him. And if he's a starter from day one. And if he's a perennial starter in 10 years, fuck value. Like the value only matters during the draft. After the draft, nobody cares about value and whether he was a value pick. So if that's your guy, go get him. But I agree. In that first round, I kept saying, I agree with you. I kept saying, man, that's a good fit. I can see him playing. Yeah. All right. Before we get to the question of the week, I want to slide this question in. We're going to switch gears a little bit and jump into get an NBA question. We ain't talking on NBA in a while, but to both of you, really quickly. We hadn't talked about the Lakers in a while, and they've fallen from the first seed in the West all the way down to the 6th seed, mainly because LeBron and Anthony Davis have been hurt. Anthony Davis is back full strength now. LeBron is back out again with the high ankle sprain. So my question is, and we knew this day is gonna come at some point in LA. Is this the time, and is he capable? Is Anthony Davis capable of leading the Lakers deep into the playoffs if LeBron's not fully healthy?
If AD can do what he got to do and playing with LeBron for what now? 3 years? He's 3 years? 2 years? Yeah. If he can like have that strength to do it, he probably could. And if you're playing with a great player like LeBron, you improve. So if he can do that, he's put on more muscle, he's got more smarter, he probably could do it. I believe in AD.
All right. Al, what say you?
I agree. I think, honestly, the challenge is for AD to do it. And if they are going to get there, it's going to be because he is the leader of the pack, and not because it's an issue of a deficiency in LeBron, but I really think it's how it should be for that transition from LeBron passing, and I think LeBron has been masterful at doing that in AD's time at the Lakers so far, that he really has tried his best to nurture him, to lift him up and kind of say, this is you, right? And so this is now the time that really circumstances have almost demanded that AD, for us to get there, you have to be the man and lead us to the promised land. And so I think he's capable. It to me, it's about his health, and that's all what it deals with, because he doesn't necessarily play like he's scared or fragile, but because he's hurt all the time, as a fan, I'm always expecting him to break down.
Right.
And so even like every time he hits the floor, it's like, oh man, oh my God, here we go.
Yeah, and he falls like a lump all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I almost don't want him to go all out, because I feel like, dang, if you go all out, you're gonna break something. But that's really that's what he's gonna have to do for us to get past the Denvers, the Clippers, the Jazz in the West, because and I mean, even in Phoenix, like, he's going to have to be that dude. And he was that dude in the finals, like last year. So he did show that he can do it. But that was also with the balance of fairly healthy and rested LeBron. And so I don't expect.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And the bubble, right? Yeah, you're right. I don't expect LeBron to be the best of LeBron in this playoff stretch. I really feel like that high ankle sprain, we all know when you play on it, that's not what it takes to get better. Right. You need to rest that high ankle sprain, but we don't have time for him to rest it. He's going to have to play on it, and he's going to have to manage it. And with that being said, then, we're going to need not only Anthony, but we're going to need the Kuzmas of the world to play better than he's ever.
Yeah.
The big man, the new big man, what's his name?
Drummond.
Drummond. He's been great. And I think, I think the one thing Lincoln mentioned, a lot of body parts with Anthony Davis, his brain, his shoulders. What else you mentioned is all kind of body parts. The one thing that we have to question is two more body parts we got to question about AD when it's time for the playoffs, and that's his heart and his cojones. Because it's not that he doesn't have heart, but we want to know that he has that, as Al, what do you call it, this murder. We want to have that murder. You want to be sure that that if LeBron's not there, and you're right, there have been times where over the last 2 years where LeBron has like almost pushed him out, like, take it, man. I want you to take this from me. But like you said, now he doesn't have a choice. So I think he can. It's just a matter of whether he's willing to not be liked and say, fuck it, I'm going to take it over.
I'm going to take it over, and I'm stepping on anybody who tries to take this ring from us,
including LeBron,
like whoever, right? It don't matter. And I really I expect that of him. So I was going to say I hope that but I expect that of him because that is that's the way the NBA tends to operate. And so if I have learned anything from the history of the NBA playoffs is that when you have these superstars who are in this climb to be the best and face of the franchise, that if they can be associated with a LeBron or a David Robinson, like the history, you've just seen this in NBA history to where, and even LeBron with D Wade, you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's been these passing of the torches to where now that superstar elevates his game and says, okay, I got this. I've learned, and you put me out here, and you know what? This ain't too bad. And I'm knocking anybody out who tries to take it from me. And so I'm hoping that we see that from him, because if we do see that from him, I think they are the team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And shoot, what was everybody saying coming into this NBA season? Oh, the finals are going to be the Lakers and the Nets. That was literally everybody was saying that. And if AD gets them to the Nets, if the Nets even make it to the finals, that's going to be a good finals to watch, but it's just going to be tough. If LeBron doesn't rest and he comes back for the last 6 games of the finals and he tries, then that's going to be a statement. It really is going to be a statement. Two in a row, and LeBron and AD coming off an injury. That's going to be a statement.
Yeah, well, the Nets got their own issues. We'll talk about them next week.
Right, especially
that's a whole other show. But we'll talk about them next week. But you're right. If people assume that it's going to be those two teams, but they both have their obstacles, of course.
Yeah.
Last thing, let's get to our listener question before we roll out of here. It's a good thing that you own, and I want to get your perspective on this. So our listener question this week is from Anissa from Charlotte. Anissa, thanks for your question. Anissa writes, my 12-year-old son is about to start his first year of football. What life lessons does sports teach you? And I'm assuming she means team sports like football. Lincoln, you first. You're almost 12. You've got a couple years in playing football. What lessons have you learned?
First of all, it's tough. Especially your first year. People gonna be looking at you, see if you're gonna improve or not, and you're gonna make mistakes, especially if it's your first year. You don't know everything, and you learn from those mistakes, and from learning off of those, it builds up self-confidence. It builds up your IQ and what to do with the game and how to get better, and practicing on your technique, on what position you play, and you learn how to have fun from it every single year, because you don't want to not have fun. That's the point of the game. You want to have fun doing it, unless you're going to be stressed out.
No doubt. Yeah. All right. Al, what do team sports teach you?
Well, first, thank you, Anissa, for even thinking of us enough to ask this such an important question. So I love our listeners' questions overall, generally speaking, but I really love our listener questions when they involve a serious topic like your children and stuff like that. So definitely don't take that for granted. So appreciate that. I love hearing Lincoln's insight and totally agree. As I look at my list, I have you learn you don't always win. So you understand that when it comes to life that, there's more to life than winning. And so you got to understand and be able to deal with how do you deal with results that aren't what you wanted, and dealing with failure and learning from those outcomes, I think is amazing life lesson. I definitely think the idea of teamwork and how to cooperate with others is something you take from team sports. The benefits of hard work. I am a big believer in, that working hard is a good thing. So you need to value the idea of just being diligent. I also think being able to perform in front of people and get over that and work through that. When you become an adult, it makes you a very more poised person who has performed in front of crowds before, so that when it's time to speak in front of people or do something in front of people, that oftentimes you find that, these people who performed or done team sports are a little bit more comfortable doing that. The idea of no quitting, I think, is also something that you get, like that. This idea that, once you commit to something, you give it to all, and particularly when you have set a goal. So the idea of goal setting and just trying to do the work that's necessary and work a plan. So I'm a big believer in youth playing team sports, because I think it makes you a better adult.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't add much more to what both of you said. Definitely spot on. And, yes, again, thanks you so much, Anissa, for entrusting us with any kind of feedback we can give you involving your son. I'll just say this. When my father passed last year, a guy I played football with when I was 8 years old, 8 or 9. Played with him that 1 year, maybe 2 years we played together, 8, 9 years old. Didn't play with him again since, but we built this bond. So you build this bond through team sports because, you're two people and a team full of people fighting for the same goal. And, of course, at 8, 9 years old, you don't even realize you're building that bond. And the guy I'm talking about, we could be, other than being from the same hometown, we're about as different as you can get. He's a 6 now. He's a 6'7" white dude who I only saw when I go home and we do barbecue competitions with my dad. He's on one of our rivaling cooking squads. So occasionally he would call or message me and say, "Hey, how's your pops doing? I ain't seen him in a while, just checking in." But when my pops died, like he called me and, hadn't participated on a team with him, having bonded with him since we were 8 years old. And we cried together on the phone and, over my father passing, and to have him be that connected just because we were bonded at 8 over a team sport is powerful. So you build those connections and those relationships, and like I tell Lincoln all the time, the guys you're playing with now, you'll never forget them. You'll never forget them. The coaches you're playing for now, you'll call them coach for the rest of your life. You'll be 40 years old and you'll see them say, "Hey, what's up, coach?" It never stops. So those are the lessons you learn, is building relationships and the value of people in your life. And the value of, no man is an island, and, everybody needs help. There's going to be we just finished talking about draft picks. Najee Harris can't do it without his offensive line. Those 5 offensive linemen can't block the whole defense. So everybody needs help at some point, and in unison, you can accomplish a lot of things.
Facts. And let me just also, from a coach's perspective, although the question was from a youth, I definitely will echo this idea that people will call you coach forever. Like, there's players that I haven't coached in 6, 7 years, and their parents will walk up to me and be like, "Hey, what up, coach?"
Right.
And it's like, I don't even know who you are. And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so-and-so's dad." Okay. But then the other point I wanted to mention from a coach perspective is that it has taught me that people come into youth sports for all types of different reasons and needs.
Right.
And some are about wanting to become professional athletes. Some it's about conditioning. Some is about babysitting, something to do. Some is about, my son or daughter needs another quality adult in their life. And that's something that I didn't appreciate until I became a coach. This idea that, they that this thing called youth sports, there's a lot of reasons why people participate in it. And they're all great reasons to do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So, Anissa, thanks you again.
Sure.
You know, we appreciate these questions y'all send us, man. Keep sending them. If you got something you want to ask us, if you disagree with something we say, if you just want to get something off your chest, email us at info@godefylife.com, or you can hit us up on all social media platforms at godefylife. Guys, it's been real. Before we get out of here, Al, what's your parting shot? You got anything for me?
My parting shot is, if you know somebody born in May, give them a hug, give them a kiss, and tell them that you are a special person. That's
Come
my
hug
parting
me,
shot.
Lincoln. No doubt. Lincoln, what you got for me? What's your parting shot, sir?
If someone's born in May, don't give them. I mean, I was just playing.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just playing.
Happy
birthday. Happy birthday. But yeah, it was a great show. Like I said, what I was talking about, always have fun when you're playing sports. There's nothing a better feeling than that.
No doubt. Yeah, the Heinz Ward mentality. I agree.
Always practice. Always, when it's something involved with sport, always have fun. You'll love the game even more.
Not bad advice
Great
at
advice.
all, son. All right.
Great advice.
Oh man, I ain't got nothing crazy, man. Shout out to Pooh. You know, we miss you like always. Shout out to you, Lincoln, for stepping in. You great job as always, Al. So it's almost 200 shows in. You always bring it, sir. Man, so out of the blue, Al, we have a cousin who I used to be roommates with, and her favorite football player in history died yesterday. Do you remember Colt Brennan, the quarterback from Hawaii?
Yeah, he's kind of young.
37.
Wow.
He died in a rehab facility. I didn't know he was an addict.
Wow.
But she fell in love with Colt Brennan because of when we were roommates, I was watching a bowl game, Hawaii and Georgia, and Georgia was beating the mess out of Hawaii, but he kept bringing Hawaii back. He was, Hawaii, he just passed the ball all over the field, and he was the greatest quarterback in Hawaii history. So she fell in love with Colt Brennan, and she texted me today and said my favorite player died yesterday. So shout out to Colt Brennan, and condolences to his family, and shout out to you, cuz, for having a favorite football player. No doubt.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, y'all. This has been episode 196 of the Defy Life podcast. It's been real. We'll talk to y'all next week. Until then, Defy Life.
Defy life.
Defy life.
Happy birthday, Al.
We're told that greatness is exceptional when it should be expected. You choose every day to live your life intentionally, without apology for how bright your light may shine. So go be great. Go be brilliant. Go be you. Go defy life. The Defy Life movement is one that speaks to each of us in its own way. Defy Life gear speaks to us all by reminding us that one size does not fit all. Visit defylifegear.com to get fitted for greatness.